Hi guys, welcome to my podcast. My name is Nicole and I am the brains and the beauty behind Yarncraft by Nicole. Today on this wonderful fall day, I am rocking my Love of Linen shawl. This is one of mine. It is a mini shawl that works up well with one skein of Wonderland Summer Silk. You could also totally do this with fingering weight and have it be a little bit lighter. I made my sister-in-law one out of fingering weight and just kind of continued the pattern throughout. But this is one of my patterns and I want to show it off, one, because it's like the perfect little layer to throw on today because it's kind of warm here in Michigan. But the other reason is that as we are getting into the holiday season, this is a very quick make. So if you're looking for something short and sweet to do with a skein of yarn or maybe even scrap yarn, that's kind of on my list of things to do, is to try this with a bunch of different scraps. Give it a shot. It's called the Love of Linen Shawl. It's by me, Nicole Michael. So today, guys, I have some exciting projects to show you. I only have one finished make, so I'll start with that. And that's what I showed you in the video last week. It's so pretty. Look at those colors. This is the tricolor linen stitch, where you use 3 different colors. You do one row and then you pick up a different color and you come back and you pick up a different color. And it's really nice because it makes it look a little bit random with where the colors are, where they're not all on top of each other. And it's really simple to do, and you don't have to weave in ends as you go because you're just picking things up. And I was a little worried that along the edges it was going to look a little funky as I was carrying the yarn up, but it really didn't. TL Yarn Crafts has an awesome video about this, which is what prompted me to try it. And I love it. I used, let's see, almost 2 full skeins of basic stitch from Lion brand, and then like half a skein of a Schitt's Creek colorway. I bet it's all acrylic yarn and I love it. And it's big enough to loop around twice, which I also like, and it's nice and wide. So I still haven't quite decided what I want to do with this, if this needs to go to the Etsy shop. I don't know. It's very pretty, but I have so many scarves and I probably don't need to keep it, but it is also very pretty. So it might be a gift. I haven't quite decided. But now that I've done this scarf, I really want to do maybe a bag because it's pretty thick the way that this one worked up. And I think it would make a cute tote or like a pillow even. Oh, a pillow. Yes. Maybe I do a pillow next. That would be really cute. Tricolor linen stitch. No pattern for this. I just went as long as I wanted to make my scarf, and then I did the tricolor linen stitch. Y'all know I love a linen stitch. Speaking of, I worked on my nameless fancy linen stitch squares a little bit this week, mainly because I wanted just a quick palette cleanser, and I have a lot of fingering weight leftovers that I'm using to make this and just kind of adding in as I go. I made a lot of squares that were this color, so I ran out of what I had left over of that. And then I know I've got a lot of this really pretty purple and this really hot pink. So I'm working on this. This is just for me. I have a tutorial on how to do a fancy linen stitch square just like this. And that's the motif I'm using with all of my fingering weight leftovers. And I kind of hope that it's big enough to be about a baby size blanket. Originally I was thinking maybe it could become a table runner, but I like the idea of it being a baby blanket at this point. It would be something that you would use like on special occasions, since most of this is like really fancy hand-dyed yarn. You wouldn't want to throw this in the washing machine in the dryer, but it would look really pretty in pictures. So I haven't quite decided what this wants to become, but it's really cute and it makes me happy, and it's a nice palette cleanser project. And I'm also right now really trying to whittle down my stash and figure out creative ways to use my leftovers so that I'm not continuing to just buy and not have enough space for it. Plus, I kind of like the challenge of saying, hey, this is all that you have of this. What cool things can you do with it? So I'm enjoying this. It is, some of you are probably saying, I can't believe that you stitched those together without blocking them first. That is a rookie mistake. Well, I know I'm going to block it afterwards, and it's just for me. So I'm doing what I want there. If you wanted your squares to be super even right before, you could. I kind of like blocking after the fact if it's something that doesn't need to be crazy neat, because then it allows the squares to kind of settle into place instead of all of them having to be blocked to the same dimensions beforehand. And let's be honest, I'm impatient, so I kind of want to see how these go together first, and I'm having a lot of fun with putting the yarn together and just remembering like, oh, I remember when I got that skein, or I remember the projects I used for that. So I'm really enjoying that. The other kind of interesting, it's not really a challenge project per se, but I think I showed y'all a couple weeks ago, or maybe it was even last week, that Stephanie from Stephanie's Yarn Escape, I want to make sure that I said her name correctly on the for her YouTube channel, sent me a pattern that she wrote, as well as a cake of yarn to make the pattern with, and I have started that. So I am right over halfway done. So I'll show you what I've got so far. And it's called the Adamas scarf, and it is named for the Greek word that means diamond, unconquerable and indestructible. I will say, I hope I didn't just lose my place. Okay, I think I'm right. Yes, because these are all decreases. So this is worked kind of side to side. Let me show you. This is what I have so far. So you start on one end with just a few stitches, and then you move your way down, and then it'll do the same thing over here. So I don't know if you can tell, because I just started it last night, because I wanted to get to the halfway point before I showed it to you. That I've hit the highest point in the diamond, and I'm now moving into the downward part. So I had never tried this yarn before. This is Yarn Bees 44th Street, and so I can show you if it'll cooperate. Deja from Heritage and Home, who is another YouTuber, you should check her out, told me that this has since been discontinued. And I'd always kind of wanted to try it, but never had. So I was glad that Stephanie sent it to me. I will say now, having tried it, it behaves the way that I thought a yarn like this would. It is a acrylic and polyamide blend. So it doesn't have mohair or wool or anything in it, but it's got this kind of brushed effect, which at some places has been a little bit hard to work with, just depending on where it is in the cake. Some of them have been a little fiddly, but I will say if you use this yarn, or if you use a yarn like this, just don't try to frog it, because it will not frog. It will not like come apart if you mess up on a place. There was one stitch where I think I had gone into the wrong place, and I was like, oh, let me fix it. And I went to tear it out. I'm like, no, it's fine. You're not going to notice it from a distance, because I can't take apart everything that is going to come with it. But this pattern uses a variation of the alpine stitch. Like, it's got lots of texture, and the yarn itself has a really pretty drape to it. The pattern is well written. Like, I haven't had any struggles. The decreases have been a little bit trickier than the increases were. The increases were really straightforward, but she does have pictures to show you what it should look like, which is super helpful. And then she also has stitch counts for you as you go through each row. So that's really nice too. And like I said, nothing about it has been like complicated or confusing or anything like that. And I'm about halfway done. The one thing that I am unsure about is I don't know what this is going to look like on. I've never seen a diamond scarf. And like, if I was wearing it like a regular scarf, would it fold forward? Like, that's the one thing I just don't know how that's going to work, which is why I'm going to do it, so I can see how it works. But like I said, it's a very well written pattern. She put a lot of thought and effort into it, you can tell. And there's even like a stitch chart in the back of the pattern, which is super helpful. So it's definitely very well thought out. I do wish that there was a picture maybe on the front, like showing how it's supposed to be worn, so that you know when you pick it up about how it's supposed to be worn. But I think I should probably have this finished by the next time that I show it to you. She also says that you can block it. I think she blocked hers in the picture, and that might make the diamond part stand out a little bit more. But honestly, I might, to kind of get rid of this curl here at the end, but I might not block it. It's an acrylic and polyamide, so you wouldn't need to. I will say that if you do use this yarn in particular, which you may or may not be able to find anymore if it's discontinued, it calls itself a DK. I would say this acts like a fingering. In fact, I'm using the same hook for the fingering weight linen stitch squares as I'm using for this, because it behaves like a fingering weight. So that's the one thing I would say. There's a couple of yarns from Yarn Bee in particular, like they have one, I think it's a DK weight, maybe it's called Sleek or something like that I use all the time, and I love using it, but it definitely is it is a very skinny DK, and this is kind of the same way. But I should have that finished, and I will say it will look very lovely on, and I don't really have much in this blushy pink, so that was a good pick. It's lovely. So that is the Adamas Adamas diamond scarf. The last thing I'm going to show you, and this will combine the my last whip as well as the Yarn Love, is this beautiful, well, it will be beautiful, my birthday sweater. So I got the most amazing yarn from Aquarius Make, and she's upped her marketing game. I've bought from her before. I found her on Instagram. I think we've been in testing groups together, which is how I found her, but she's wonderful. And so she had a bunch of her yarn on clearance, and I saw these skeins. I'll tell you, like, that, my caking job when winding that yarn could have been a little bit better, but like, it's got sparkles. It's this really pretty blue. As soon as I saw it, I was like, that's it. That's what I'm gonna make my birthday sweater with. And then I had this already in my stash. This is like a very quintessential Nicole blue. I mean, as you can tell, I'm a fan of this blue. And so I already had this, and then I'm just gonna like stripe it in. So I think it'll be really pretty and wintry. My birthday's in December, and I'm a big fan. And I mean, these are the two colors together, so that's gonna be really pretty. So I started that, and I'm making the Amber Magic off the shoulder sweater from Janine Myska's Modern Crochet Sweaters. I have looked at a couple of them, and I decided that this is the one I wanted to make. There's actually two versions of this sweater in this book. One of them is designed for bulky yarn, and then this one is designed for fingering weight yarn. I have never made myself an off the shoulder sweater before, so I'm really excited about that because I think it'll be a very pretty look. And I have started it. I will say that it's a little bit narrower than I thought it would be at the top. She says that she's designed it so that it won't like completely fall off. So I think it'll probably hit me about right here. I did go up to a 6.25 millimeter hook. She suggests a 4 millimeter hook. I tried it with my F hook, which I think it's either a 4 or 3.75. But it was too small, like it was even smaller than this. And so I went up to the the G hook, the size 6, the 4.25 millimeter hook, and I like that a lot better. And you're also supposed to crochet a little bit more loosely because these are, let's see if I can show you. Yeah, you can see on there. These are center stitch single crochets. So instead of going into the top 2 loops of your stitch, you go into the middle of it. So it gives it a different texture. And I've actually never tried it before. Like, I've seen it before, but I've never tried it before. So I'm excited about that. And it's a top-down sweater, and I'm pretty pumped about it. I think it'll look good. I think it'll make my eyes pop. I think it'll be really fun to wear and really sparkly and happy and fun. So I'm excited about that, and I'm going to be working on that a lot more between now and the next time that I see you. The one of the things that I'm changing a little bit from the way that the pattern is written is that it's written to do this in a spiral. So instead of like closing your row at the end of your round and then going to the next one, you just go right on top of it. Part of the reason why I tweaked that is because I know that I'm going to be striping in this color, and I don't want it to be off. But personally, I can't do a spiral. Like, my brain doesn't like it. It says that there's going to be unevenness, and I just cannot deal with a spiral. And so even before I decided on the striping, I'm like, nope, I'm not doing a spiral. So that's the only thing that I've tweaked so far on this. And then depending on how much yarn, because I'm a little short on the amount of yarn that I need, depending on how much yarn I go through, like I might do a slightly cropped version, or maybe I'll do shorter sleeves. We'll see. I haven't quite decided that yet. But I have 3 skeins of the Pretty Sparkly Blue, which is the amount that she had left for her clearance sale. And then I have 1 skein of this. So however far that gets me, that gets me. I don't really want to add other colors. There was a couple of other ones in my stash that I looked at to see if it made sense to pair it with, and this is the one I liked the best. And it feels very me. It feels like a Nicole color palette. I will say that when I was deciding kind of what to put with this when I bought it, I was thinking of the fact that a lot of people say, oh my goodness, like you use so many colors and you're always putting together new color combinations. I'm like, yeah, part of that is because when I buy stuff that enough yarn to fit me, sometimes I can't get enough colors, like I can't get enough skeins in one color to do it. Or sometimes I'm trying to save money. So if a yarn dyer comes out with something that's really pretty, instead of buying a sweater quantity of yarn that would be hundreds of dollars, I might just buy a couple skeins and try to sprinkle them throughout. Or I look for good sales, like when people are trying to clear out their stash. So part of it is that I do love color, and that's very evident, as you can see. But another part of it is just like monetarily, and since I make most of my garments as an extra large, size 14, like and crocheting takes more yarn than knitting, like you got to take all of that in consideration when you're buying things. So the fact that I already had this in my stash and I bought this on clearance, and it's not a hand-dyed yarn, whereas this is, like, that's kind of the way I'm finagling things to make it make more sense for me. So just thought I would share that with you, because I know that I show off a lot of really pretty hand-dyed yarns, and I do invest in hand-dyed yarns like anything else. Like if that's something that really makes you happy and brings you joy and you're using it, like, it makes sense to throw a little bit more money, especially when you see how much work hand dyers put into their yarn. But I mean, then I'm also doing projects like this that are using yarn just bought from Joann's, or I'm making things like this wonderful scarf that is using 100% acrylic yarn. All of these scraps are all acrylic yarn scraps, and figuring out ways to use what I already have. Like, there's a balance that takes place to make things make sense for me and to make sense for where I am financially. So like I said, I just thought I'd share that with you. And that, my dears, is all that I have for this week. So I'm gonna leave you with what I can't let go, and what I can't let go is that let's go vote. Me and my husband voted absentee earlier this week, maybe Monday. We got our ballots in the mail. We went through, we looked up our candidates. We saw what each proposition that we have in our city, looked up some information about that, made sure we knew who we were voting for, and then my husband dropped that off at the ballot box. We're good to go. So get out there and make your voices heard if you haven't already on Tuesday. With that, I'll leave you, and I'll see you next week. Have a great weekend. Bye.